the Executive Director of ANJEC, the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, and it's great to have everybody here with us tonight. Thank you for Zooming along with us. ANJEC, the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, is a 51-year-old organization now. We're a nonprofit, and our mission is to help municipalities make good decisions about the environment. And we do that through working with environmental commissioners who are volunteer municipal officials, but also by working with locally elected officials, planning board members, zoning board members, county commission members, freeholders, and the New Jersey legislature. So really anywhere in municipal, county, or state government, we're here to provide assistance on every environmental issue that faces New Jersey. We are very happy to have you here with us tonight to kick off the new season. So fall is, I'm a fall baby, so it tends to be my favorite season. I like the cooler weather as well before we get freezing cold. Today is the autumnal equinox, the fall equinox. So we're officially kicking off the new season tonight with you. And we're very proud to have two special guests with us tonight. We expect our program will last about 60 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer, depending on how many questions that you have. I want to draw everyone's attention to the bottom of the screen. When you have your little arrow up, when you move your cursor around, you'll see there's a Q&A option for those who are maybe not on Zoom for 8 to 10 hours a day, like I tend to be these days. There's a Q&A option, and so you just click on that and you can type your questions in. And we've got two wonderful ANJEC staff members here tonight. Liz Ritter is our Deputy Director, and Liz is going to be monitoring the Q&A along with Lyle Landon, our Membership and Development Director. So we'll make sure to get to your questions and answer them a little bit later. Tonight's program is called Look What's Growing in New Jersey, and it's really inspired by a few things. A story that we ran in our quarterly ANJEC report, our quarterly magazine called ANJEC Report, and it showed that despite the alarming trend nationally of decreasing numbers and acres of farms, New Jersey is truly the garden state. So according to the Department of Agriculture, not only do we have a number of farms increasing from 800 to almost 10,000, the number of acreage has increased from 20,000 to over 700,000 acres. And the number that's particularly near and dear to my heart, given that this is the 100th anniversary of women winning the right to vote, knowing that that was an impartial and incomplete win, but a first and important win we're celebrating this year, is that in New Jersey, we have more female farmers on average than we do nationally. So nationally, we've got 27% female farmers, and in New Jersey, we have 40%. So that is huge. We also were motivated to bring to you some of our New Jersey farmers who are here with us tonight with Sherry and Alina, and we'll talk about them in a minute. Because of COVID-19 and because of the pandemic, I tend to be a bit of a foodie. I love to cook. I grew up with some food insecurity. I thought we were middle income, but it turns out we were poor, and we were on food stamps occasionally growing up. And I didn't know that. You know, my parents always did a good job of providing, but I think some of that anxiety trickled through as an adult. And when the pandemic hit, you know, the idea of getting your food was a real source of panic for me, and I know a lot of us. The supermarkets dried up pretty quickly of staples. And I witnessed New Jersey farmers really get in and roll up their sleeves and say, look, the people need us, and we're going to do everything we can to be there for them. And they got creative, and they got to work even more than they usually do. I don't know when you guys sleep or how you get anything else done, because I know you're some of the busiest people that we have in New Jersey. And I am incredibly personally grateful for your services and your work. And I hope that at the beginning of this new season, we can help make some connections between our ANJEC audience and the food that you are growing and bringing to us locally, so that we can celebrate this harvest season with some local products and make some new friends in the process. So we want to thank all of our attendees for being here tonight and deciding to be with us. We do have a second part of this series close to Thanksgiving. We're focused on the food factor here. So more information will be provided at the end of this session on that. Your support allows ANJEC to provide more resources to your local environmental leaders, enabling them to protect your natural resources, your parks, the water you drink, the air you breathe, the food that you eat. And so with that, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce our two speakers tonight. We have Sherry Dudas from the Honeybrook Organic Farm in Pennington and Chesterfield, and probably a few other places I'm forgetting. And Alina, you might need to help me with your last name, Zolotareva? Okay. So Sherry comes to us from the Honeybrook Organic Farm with over 10 years of conservation and farmland preservation experience. As the farm manager, she's responsible for managing the farm's marketing and promotion, special event planning, community outreach, and related farm business and land use planning. Honeybrook is the oldest CSA program in New Jersey, and I know at one point they were the largest in the nation, so they are quite substantial. CSA is community supported agriculture, which I know Sherry can tell us more about, and I'll confess I'm a groupie, otherwise known as a member of the Honeybrook Organic CSA, and they provide fantastic produce. And my understanding is that business model really takes some of the edge off for the farmers. So if you've got a particularly rainy year, a particularly dry year, and one crop or another doesn't do so well, it's not the end of the world for the farmer. And, hey, I may get a potato or two less, or, oh, goodness forbid, a quart of strawberries less, because they wait for all year long, Sherry. But the CSA is a really a stable model for farmers, or a more stable model. Sherry's also the editor of their newsletter and their website, and she serves on Burlington County's Agricultural Development Board. And Alina is the marketing director. Alina Zoltaeva is the marketing director and registered dietitian nutritionist for AeroFarms, a certified B Corp. And you'll have to tell me about those, because as far as I know, they are the most fabulous structure of companies we can have in really New Jersey or our country, because you're looking at, economics and environment and really trying to do the right thing by business in the world we live in. AeroFarms is an award-winning clean technology company with headquarters in Newark that builds and operates responsible, state-of-the-art indoor vertical farms, which I think is just so cool. And they are, sorry about that. So they're located in Newark. Alina uses her background to translate nutrition science to consumers, playing a role in AeroFarm's mission to combat food deserts and bring fresh, local, nutritious leafy greens to all communities. We're really proud to be talking about food deserts tonight, right on the heels of Governor Murphy signing the environmental justice legislation last week, so that we can begin to talk about those issues less in silos and more as a larger New Jersey community, and combat the problems of food insecurity and food deserts and nutrition deserts in really what is a bountiful garden state. Prior to working with AeroFarms, Alina worked as a culinary nutrition food service consulting company at the giant consumer product goods company Unilever. So I'm going to have to ask both of them for some recipes and nutrition information after this session, because I have your contact info, so I'll be sure to use it. With that, the way we're going to proceed tonight is we're going to see a short video from each of our representative farms tonight, from Honeybrook and from AeroFarms. And then afterwards, we will do a Q&A. So we're going to save so we'll do the we'll do the videos, we'll do a talk from each of our farmers, and then we'll save the Q&A to the end. But feel free to go ahead and type it in the Q&A down the bottom at Zoom, and we'll make sure to capture that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our techie in charge for the evening, Liz Ritter, and she is going to play us our first video, I believe. Loading, please wait. There we go.
My name is James Kinsel.
And I'm Shari Dudas, and we're from Honeybrook Organic Farm. So what you really see here at this farm, what makes this farm unique is it was the first farm that was preserved in the state's farmland preservation program. This farm is part of a larger 5-farm agricultural preserve, and it was slated in the 80s to become a housing development of over 1,000 units. And when the local townspeople heard about that, they decided that they didn't want that kind of high density development in Chesterfield. So they kind of banded together as a community and sought help from the freeholders. And Bob Shin, who was a freeholder at the time, helped them develop the program that eventually became part of the farmland preservation program. This farm was preserved with the help of the Burlington County freeholders, the state of New Jersey, and also Chesterfield Township contributed.
We can trace the early ownership of this farm back 7 generations within the Holloway family. So this farm was settled by the Holloways in the early colonial period. A part of what we were looking for was not just high quality farmland, but we really wanted a historic home. We do vegetable crops, pretty much everything from arugula to zucchini. And then generally we do various tree fruits, including peaches, Asian plums, nectarines, apricots. We're trying organic apples.
Persimmon.
Oh, persimmon. Oh, yeah. Asian American crosses, and Chinese chestnuts. You can always, on a farm like this in Burlington County, you can always be sure that you will have, you may have to kind of follow the next trend, but these soils will produce for you.
That was really great. Thank you. Shari, we're going to turn it over to you now. I believe you have a presentation for us.
I do. It looks like I might be having a problem sharing my screen.
Do we have your presentation that we could share it for you?
I believe I did give it to Lyle, but I don't know if she has it set up.
Okay, well, we can get working on that. So when you go down to the bottom of your screen, you should have a share screen option.
Right. It's giving me all these different options to...
When you click on it, it should ask you which screen you want to share. So if you have, 80,000 unread emails like I might have, we don't see that if it's open. It's really only 16. It's not 80,000, it's 16,000, but you get the point. So if you have your PowerPoint open, it should be one of the options that you can select when you hit share screen.
So let's see. It's saying open system preferences.
Oh, well, that's not good. That seems like a computer error.
Well, should I just do it verbally and maybe we could share the presentation with the attendees?
Yeah, we can do that if you're comfortable with it.
Sure. So I apologize for the technical difficulties. I probably would have been better off using my laptop instead of upgrading to the brand new iMac that we purchased this year. But Jen, thank you for the invitation to present to the community that has gathered this evening. My husband Jim Kinsel and I are the farm owners and managers of Honeybrook Organic Farm, and we are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. So Jim and I both do not come from agricultural backgrounds. Jim was actually studying actuary science in school, and then also when he graduated was in the actuary department at Prudential Insurance Company in Newark. before he decided that he wanted to do something that was more community related and also helped people become healthier. And he also had a love of the outdoors. So he did intern with 3 different farmers in New Jersey before he took over the lease at the Stony Brook Millstone Watershed Association, which is now known as the Watershed Institute. So he took that over in 1991 and offered the first community supported agriculture program in Mercer County at the time. And it was already a certified organic farm. We are known for growing a number of high quality certified organic, not only vegetables and fruits, but we also have branched out into offering nuts. We have herbs, and we also do an extraordinary number of flowers. We're also known for our heirloom varieties, and we also do a wide variety of herbs. So what Jim brought to Mercer County 30 years ago was a marketing system called Community Supported Agriculture. And in a community supported agriculture marketing system, what the consumer is doing, it's a little unique. And 30 years ago, some people thought it was even bordering on communism, but members buy membership into the season in advance of the growing season. So they become members much like you would become a member of a gym, and instead of getting your privileges to come to the gym and do your workouts, you're getting your privilege to get a weekly supply of produce from the farm. And we farm in 2 different communities in 2 different counties. So we still do farm at the Watershed Institute's land. We also rent from a private landowner of a preserve farm in Hopewell. And then in 2007 and again in 2008, we bought 2 separate preserve farms in Hopewell Township. I'm sorry, in Chesterfield Township, in order to meet the expanding demand that we had for the community supported agriculture memberships. So again, and to piggyback on what Jen was saying, really the beauty of the CSA marketing system is that farmers get the capital to start their season the following year up front. So we don't have to do what conventional farmers do in getting loans before the season starts. Generally, they'll get operating loans to buy their seeds and fertilizers and other inputs. We already have that seed money, so to speak, from our farm members. And in exchange for trusting us with that upfront capital investment, they're sharing in the bounty of the season, as well as sometimes when we have losses. And every year we will have some kind of huge bounty. This year, watermelon was a really fabulous crop for us, and onions were a really great crop as well. But we might not have had as much Chinese cabbage this year. It's been kind of a little bit on the dry side, and Chinese cabbage likes it wet. So I think a lot of our members on balance will look at the season and feel that they got a good value, and they tend to return year after year. So it gives us a certain amount of security. And we also know who our customers are. We know our Tuesday members who pick up in Chesterfield. And we also know their children's names and where they work. So it's kind of nice to actually be growing for a specific community. So how we set up our distribution system is we have 2 farm markets, one in Chesterfield and one in Pennington. So people can opt to pick up their share at either farm. Or we also do group box share drop-offs where We have a delivery route that serves institutions like Princeton University, so we drop off at one of the graduate student housing units. We also drop off to a number of health food stores throughout New Jersey. We also go to religious institutions like churches, and we deliver those group boxes as far north as Essex County and as far south as Camden, and we also serve Bucks County. Over the years, we have experienced some decline in our membership, and our customers and people who were thinking about being customers were letting us know that they really wanted home delivery. And so we resisted the urge to satisfy that, that request, because it just seemed sort of antithetical to what we do as organic farmers. I mean, one of the premises of organic farming is to work with nature as much as possible. On our farm, we don't use any synthetic chemicals. We try to work with nature. We use beneficial insects to try to control pest insects. And so getting into a delivery system which would have us going to, door to door seemed like it might be heavy on petroleum inputs. But at the same time, we wanted to stay competitive. So before COVID-19 sort of came down and wreaked havoc for us and for everybody else, we had already decided that we were going to do home delivery. And so we did want to provide boxes of not only our produce, but the other items that our local vendors and farmers are providing during the regular course of a year. Our CSA does not distribute before May, and we had our stay-at-home orders issued by our governor in March. So we were starting to get calls from mostly mothers asking if we would consider delivering earlier than May. So we already had the infrastructure. We had delivery trucks. We had all these college students that were coming back from school and were contacting us about working on the farm. So we decided to give it a shot. We subscribed to an e-commerce platform. We reached out to all of our farmer friends and other vendors. We have a friend that distributes high quality organic Spanish olive oil. And we very quickly started offering home delivery of mixed boxes of groceries that included everything from local meats, soap, organic eggs, wine, which was local. It's being produced in Cream Ridge right up the road from us, and it was a hot seller during the beginning of the pandemic. We had Lancaster County organic popcorn, cheese, Pennsylvania fresh and baked tofu. We even had frozen prepared food from a restaurant in Flemington, and foraged items such as fiddlehead ferns, ramps. And in addition to that, we did have some of our own produce. So that wound up being incredibly popular. We offered home delivery during our CSA season, and our sales went up by 35% this year over last year. But not only are we diversifying what we do in terms of our marketing and our distribution, but in response to the changes that we're all experiencing and we're all upset about with respect to global climate change, we've decided to do more projects on the farm that help sequester carbon on the farm and to do our part to alleviate the amount of carbon going into the atmosphere. We've always been composting our own, or I guess, creating our own fertilizer by using compost. And it's primarily been composting municipal leaves. Now we are getting into composting horse manure, which actually the pandemic helped us in that endeavor. A number of our neighbors in Chesterfield are horse owners, but they also work full-time jobs. So when they found themselves at home like the rest of us, it was a perfect time for them to muck out their soil or muck out their manure and deliver it to our farm. And then my husband, Jim, thought that was such a great idea. He started putting up lawn signs all over requesting wood chips because he's going to be using that as part of his composting recipe. And now we're getting completely inundated with tree services and other vendors looking to deliver wood chips to us. And the reason why they are knee deep in wood chips is because of all of the storms that we had this year. A lot of the storms had heavy winds that brought down a lot of trees. And so they're clearing out their yards from having wood chips that would otherwise go into the landfill. And when wood chips wind up in the landfill, they wind up emitting an incredible amount of methane. So we're taking that out of the waste stream along with the horse manure, and we're creating a really nutrient-dense fertilizer, because one of the tenets of organic farming is you have to start with healthy soil in order to have healthy plants, which your customers consume, and it helps to make them healthy. And one trend that we are seeing during the pandemic is customers that really want to eat clean, and they really do equate local organic with clean eating, and they recognize that the freshest produce that you can get is going to help build your immune system. So other things that we do on the farm, other than creating the compost that we're using, is we also are planting a lot of trees. We've planted arborvitae that acts as a buffer to our neighbors who might be using synthetic chemicals on their lawns or on their farmland. And that fast-growing arborvitae not only creates a buffer with soil erosion, but it also provides habitat for birds and small mammals. So what we've created here is really a beautiful environment for our CSA families when they come. We also offer pick your own for all of our members, whether they're picking up off the farm or on farm pickup. They can pick a plethora of crops, everything from flowers to herbs to okra to hot peppers. And we really feel that public access is a really important way to show people how their food is being grown, but also to give them an appreciation of the land and the work that goes into farming sustainably in New Jersey. So we think our farm is really a success story on two levels. Being that we've been farming for 30 years, we've been a model just for successful, sustainable, profitable farming in New Jersey, but also we've been a partner with the Watershed Institute for 30 years now. So we have this wonderful model to share with other organizations that might be thinking about partnering with farmers in any number of ways. And also we think that we have just been a model for sustainability and again, profitable farming that attracts our younger generation. So we've been really lucky to be able to mentor a number of farmers that have gone on to start their own businesses, including Jess Niederer at Chickadee Creek, another female managed farm in Central Jersey. And I just wanted to end by encouraging people to seek out their local farmers, whether or not they're organic. That a lot of us are having a really, we're having a really great year. Many of us are doing agritourism. It's a great time to do hay rides as long as you're socially distanced. and it's a great time for pumpkin picking. So check out the Jersey Fresh website to find out about those fall activities and other farms that you could support, because without you, there's not going to be a vibrant farm community in the future. So thank you for letting me share my story. And again, I apologize for my technical difficulties.
Thanks, Sherry. We appreciate that. I clunkily zoomed through your slides while you were speaking.
Oh, okay.
We did get to see some of them, but I went pretty quickly in the beginning. So we did get to see some of that. And I want to attest to the awesomeness of the onions this year, which usually don't make me cry, but like I could have used some big onion goggles or something when I was chopping those. And I've got onion soup, and the freezer is full of onions, and the tomatoes as well. So I've had, I've got marinara all jarred up for the winter. I've got, what else do I have? Roasted tomato soup. I've got tomato pie. There's tomatoes everywhere. So. Not complaining. Wonderful. So thank you. And Alina, I am really interested in now learning about AeroFarms. I have heard quite a few ANJEC staff sing your praises, and the community of Newark speaks very highly of AeroFarms. So this is a real treat and a different kind of farming than I think we typically think of. So with that, I want to turn it over. I think Liz, our technological guru for the evening, is going to show your video, and then we're going to hear a presentation from you.
On one hand, we're a farming company. On the other hand, we're a technology company. We grow a plant typically from seed to harvest in about 15 days versus what's 30 to 45 days in a greenhouse or in a field. The benefit of vertical farming is our productivity is extremely high in a small footprint. We have all these macro trends that should be a wake-up call that we need a new paradigm of how we're going to feed our planet. Our growth media is a cloth that's made out of recycled bottles, and it's 100% reusable. From a design standpoint, we have these circular economy principles, ultimately to do more with less, to eliminate waste, and that impacts how we grow.
The whole history of agriculture has been all about changing the plants in small incremental ways to make them more amenable to human production systems. This is really the latest iteration of that, of bringing plants indoors into a new production system. One of the most exciting opportunities about changing the environment is improving nutrition. We know we can really improve that with different environmental conditions. Then we can have a product that's more nutritious, that can bring a better value to people in their diets, as well as really improving human health. These farms are set up to be able to supply to local areas, particularly in urban environments where you have dense populations and where you really benefit from pain points in the supply chain. Really bringing that supply chain to the city and bringing the best quality produce in a food safe way, at the same time eliminating or reducing substantially the amount of carbon footprint that we have. I think one of the most interesting and pressing issues in the food supply chain is all about getting fresh produce that people want to eat. Everything that plant experiences, we can manage in a really controlled way, and we can have just tremendous control over the quality, the taste, and the flavor.
think Aero Farms is illustrative of how innovation can come meet some challenges in an industry and to find better ways to provide, at the end of the day, food for people, so everyone has access, in our case, to fresh food 365 days a year that's safe and tastes wonderful.
Okay, that's some seriously cool technology. Wonderful. So, Alina, you're on mute. There we go. And the stage is all yours.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today. And thank you to Sherry. Every time, we've gone through this presentation once, but every time we chat, I'm always so keen and so excited on visiting. I'm a big fan of regenerative agriculture, and I'm a big fan of CSAs, and really farmers are the hardest working people on the planet. So big kudos to you and to your farm and to all the farmers in the Garden State and all over the world. So does everyone see my screen? Does everyone hear me okay? Yep.
Yes, we're all good. We can see you and hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So my name is Alina Zolotarova, and I'm the marketing director at Aero Farms. I'm also a registered dietitian nutritionist, so my background is actually a little bit unconventional as well. I don't come from an agricultural background directly. My grandparents were all farmers, but I studied at Cornell and I studied nutritional biochemistry. And so my perspective is really that of public health and food and how to do the most good by the most people, using food as medicine and using food as our tool. And I've been privileged to be with Aero Farms now for almost 6 years, since we were 12 to 13 people in our first research and development facility in Newark. And it's been a wild ride, and I'm excited to take you guys on a little journey with me. So the first thing that I really wanted to note here is that, as you saw in the video, we have some big challenges in agriculture as a whole. As the video mentioned, 70% of fresh water is going to agriculture. And we are actually in a bit of a freshwater crisis globally. We're running out of freshwater reserves. And then 70% of freshwater contamination is actually coming from agriculture. In addition to that, we've lost quite a bit of arable land due to topsoil degradation over the last 40 to 50 years. For a variety of different reasons: mismanagement of topsoil, of farmland, practices that are not regenerating the soil, etc. And at the same time, globally, our population is increasing. So by 2050, you may have heard the statistic, but it's estimated that we're going to be nearing 9.5 to 10 billion people. And most of those people are going to be living in cities, in big metropolises like New York City, like Chicago, like San Francisco. And those people are going to need to be fed and will be demanding much more fresh food. But because of all the inefficiencies sort of in our food system, in our supply chains, a lot of that food, actually, as Sherry mentioned, landfill, a lot of that food goes to waste. So you might have heard the statistic that 40% of our food ends up in landfill, which causes methane emissions, which is the far more dangerous and potent greenhouse gas than even carbon dioxide. But when we're talking about leafy green vegetables, which is primarily what we grow at Aero Farms, that number is actually 76%. So most of our leafy greens that we eat here on the East Coast, unless they're of course from local farmers and from our local CSAs, they're coming from California, or they're coming from Numa, Arizona, or Mexico. And so by the time we get them, they're a couple of weeks old, and a lot of them have been sort of wasted along that supply chain. 76% is an unfathomable number and figure to think about, but it's the reality. So all that's to say is there's a place for all kinds of farms, especially in a world where we have a lot of problems to solve in the world of agriculture. And so this is my office. It's wild to even think about the journey that we've come on over the last 6 years since I've gotten to the company, and then since 2004, which is actually when the company was founded. So we are a new kind of farm. We're definitely farmers at our core. But this is a photo of our headquarters and the largest farm of its kind in the world in Newark, New Jersey. So this is the site of a former steel mill that we actually repurposed and retrofitted to turn into a productive farm. In this 70,000 square foot footprint, which is about the size of an acre, we can grow 1.5 to 2 million pounds of leafy greens on an annualized basis. And we do this all year round, independent of season and weather. We do this without sun or soil. And we're a team of farmers, of growers, of scientists, plant scientists, engineers, all sorts of folks, technologists that all kind of share that similar vision to be able to grow food in an environmentally responsible way so that we can feed people all over the world. And our mission statement, I think, is really important to highlight here as well, because we're really, our goal as AeroFarms is local, but it's also global. So our mission is really to grow the best plants possible for the betterment of humanity, to be able to grow essentially anything, anywhere, and to be able to address both food security and climate change. As was mentioned a little bit earlier, we are a certified B Corporation, and this is something we're extremely proud of. It's a very rigorous process and a very rigorous certification to maintain. But this means that we're among a group of businesses that really meet the highest standards for environmental performance, public transparency, legal accountability, and it's a public scorecard. So you can go online and you can look at our score and see where we stand and kind of be able to poke through our practices. And this is something that's really, really important to us. As I mentioned, we were founded in Newark, and our HQ and 5 of our sites are actually in Newark, New Jersey. And this is a picture of our first farm and our first groundbreaking almost 6 years ago. What you'll see kind of in the lower left-hand corner is one of our engineering facilities today, which is the site of a former laser tag facility where we also grow food. Up on the upper right-hand corner, those are the bones of the original steel mill. And what really made this possible is the collaboration from the city of Newark, from the state of New Jersey, and the public-private partnerships that went into making this happen. And the shared understanding that New Jersey as the garden state really focused on growing food, really focused on supporting farmers and supporting food producers, and investing in cities like Newark to really be able to bring green jobs and opportunities back to the city. Most of our talent actually comes from Newark, New Jersey. We hire most folks locally from either within Newark or a couple of miles outside of Newark, and we train everyone on the job, green jobs with benefits, and really make sure that we give people the opportunity to grow in their careers. This is a picture of our steel mill on the left-hand side before it was retrofitted, and then on the right-hand side is kind of what it looks like today. We're still continuing that build out, but it's really important for us to do the most with the least. That's one of our mantras, is to take something that already exists and to repurpose it instead of doing everything from scratch. The first farm that we ever built in Newark was actually in a K-8 school called Phillips Academy Charter School. You can see the farm in the back, and originally AeroFarms was an OEM. So we built farms and licensed our technology. Today we own and operate all of our farms, but this is a beautiful example of our technology. It's modular and it's scalable. So that means that it can be as small or as big, as long and as wide or as tall as the unit or the building needs it to be. And so what's really amazing about this program is that the kids actually grow their own vegetables while learning science, technology, and engineering and math, and then they harvest their vegetables and eat them in their cafeteria. So this school has really made an incredible commitment, not just to STEM education, but also to nutrition and integrating that all into their curriculum. So this is a little schematic of the way that we grow at AeroFarms, just to give you guys a little bit of the anatomy, and I'll try to zoom through this pretty quickly. So we are a controlled environment farmer, so we employ controlled environment agricultural technologies. That means that instead of changing the seed to fit the environment, as in GMOs, we're doing the opposite. We're creating and optimizing the environment to fit the seed. So we're using the same seeds as field farmers are using, but what we're doing is we're giving them the exact inputs that they need to perform the best and to grow the best and to be the healthiest. So we exclusively use LED lights. We don't use any sun. We also don't use any soil. We actually grow on a proprietary cloth medium that we have a patent on. And that cloth is reusable. It's actually made from recycled water bottles. And then when we grow directly, we seed and grow on the cloth. Once the plants grow, we harvest them directly on the cloth, wash the cloth, and reuse it. And so again, this is one of the ways that we're doing the most with the least. We use a technique and a technology called aeroponics. So similar to hydroponics, there's a nutrient-rich water that we use, but instead of the roots being submerged in that water, we mist the roots with nutrition to minimize the amount of water. So we're actually using 95% less water than outdoor field farming, and about 40 to 50% less water than in hydroponics. So this is a way for us to keep the system lightweight and to maximize the amount of vertical stacks that we can have per square foot. We define vertical farming as growing up instead of out. So you may have seen wall gardens and rooftop gardens and many different definitions and many different approaches to indoor farming or sort of high-tech farming. But the way that we define vertical farming is really getting the maximum output per square foot. So the way that we grow actually results in 390 times the productivity per square foot compared to what we can do outside with just one layer of farming. And because of this controlled environment approach, because we're able to optimize the temperature, the humidity, the nutrient mix, and create the specific growing algorithms for each plant that we grow, we're able to grow in a fraction of the time. So for leafy greens, for example, depending on the variety, we can grow in 10 to 14 days, what normally takes 35 to 45 days out in the field. This is a photo of baby lettuces and sort of the root structure without the soil, and you can see the cloth up on top. And what's really great is because of the way that we grow, we're not using any pesticides. So we don't have to spray with any pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides. So once our product is harvested, it goes straight into packaging, and then it's shipped within 24 hours to our selling partners. And the product is ready to eat out of the container. You don't even need to wash it. No triple washing, nothing like that. So it's an extremely safe, extremely transparent, traceable product with the highest levels of food safety possible for this category. This is a really cool photo that I love to show because we are farmers at our core, we're growers at our core, but we're also technologists. So we're really looking at the latest in data science and machine vision and artificial intelligence to learn as much as possible. And every plant we look at as a data point. So this is just a beautiful visual of how our data scientists might look at a plant and then how a chef might look at a plant at the same time. I'm a registered dietitian, and a lot of people ask me the question, well, if it's grown without soil, doesn't that mean that there's less nutrient density? And the answer is actually no. Because we're able to control and optimize the environment, we're actually able to produce, in many cases, a superior product from a nutrition standpoint compared to something that's grown out in the field. And the reason for that is because we can have consistency and we can track the nutrition of the plant. So this is an example of our arugula compared to the USDA database. We've actually had hundreds of times more in beta carotene and in vitamin C compared to the USDA. So this for me is super exciting as a registered dietitian because we need to be eating much more dark leafy green vegetables, much more produce for our health and longevity. and to prevent a lot of the preventable diseases. And this is one way that we can get a lot more bang for our buck. A few words about this. You know, we're research scientists, and we're engaged in a lot of research initiatives at present. One of those research initiatives is with the USDA and the Foundation for Food and Agriculture Research. And we're really examining how flavor, nutrition, and our vertical farming system interact. So we're in a multi-year research study trying to understand how different stressors, like different lighting arrays, different wavelengths of light, different nutrient mixes, impact the flavor of leafy greens. So this is something that's really, really exciting, because we can take the same arugula, for example, and grow it under one set of conditions and under another set of conditions, and they can taste totally different. One can be super spicy, one can be much sweeter, and they can have totally different nutritional profiles as well. So this is a really, really cool study that we're just wrapping up, and excited for those outcomes. Right now, when we go to the supermarket, we can really only get a handful of leafy green vegetables, a handful of varieties, but there are thousands and thousands and thousands of nutritious, interesting, delicious varieties from all over the world. And what makes me super excited is the fact that we can actually take a super rare variety and grow it and create the environment for that variety, grow it and bring it to market. So I've tasted almost 1,000 different varieties of leafy greens while I've been at Era Farms, and it's mind-blowing how much opportunity there is just in this category. A lot of people are like, well, you're only growing lettuce? Well, there's a lot of cool lettuce out there that we've not even seen before. So this is an area that I'm really excited about. And we do grow different crops, and we have grown different crops. So actually we have a lot of new crops coming to market soon. So stay tuned for that as well. We've partnered with some really cool top chefs like David Chang, who's one of our investors. And today in the marketplace, you can actually find our leafy greens under the brand Dream Greens. We're found in ShopRite. We're in about 60 ShopRites right now, soon to be the whole chain. We're in all of the Northeast Whole Foods stores. We're on FreshDirect and Amazon Fresh. And we've been in the marketplace now for a couple of years. We grow baby greens and we grow microgreens. And this brand was really developed to celebrate food and flavor, and to get people excited about eating salad and leafy greens and vegetables, and to make salad sexy. So for me, this is what's really, really exciting, is to be able to employ the same marketing and branding techniques to vegetables, right? In a way that we might not have thought of in the past. So as a dietitian, I'm very happy, and I'm more than happy to be able to endorse these products. And the last thing that I'll share is some recent exciting news that you may have read. One of our next farms that we're going to be launching shortly later this year is actually going to be in Abu Dhabi in the Middle East, as part of a big initiative to bring high-tech farming to the desert over in that part of the world. And then another interesting initiative that you may have heard of that applies to New Jersey is our recent partnership with Jersey City to actually build 10 small farming units for the city of New Jersey where the produce is going to be free to the public and available to anyone that needs it. So these are two really exciting initiatives that I just wanted to share. So thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alina.
Of course.
And I learned that there's way more lettuce than I ever thought there possibly was in this world. That's pretty cool. So now we're going to go into Q&A, and I'm going to turn that over to Lyle. And I know she's been monitoring the questions that have come through. So she'll read them out loud, and then who's ever best able to answer them, either Sherry or Alina, just go for it.
Great. Thank you, Sherry and Alina. The first question is, would you speak some about how one becomes a certified organic farmer, and do you have any requirements to maintain such status? I think that would be for you, Sherry.
Yeah, the first thing that you need to do when you're thinking about becoming a certified organic farmer is to get a copy of the regulations. It's now a program that's overseen by the United States Department of Agriculture. There's many different certifiers. We use the New Jersey Department of Agriculture. When you're taking over farmland, and if it has not already been either fallow with no chemical inputs on it, or if it has been farmed conventionally, the fields must rest and must be really chemical free for 3 years. It's kind of like, you know, it has to go through that withdrawal program. And then it's always good to start building the soil. That's what we did when we bought 2 farms that were being farmed conventionally. So once we made sure that the farmers that were farming it previously, we had to get their date of their last chemical application, and that's when the clock starts running. But during that 3-year period, you can market any produce that you're producing as produce that's going through the transition to organic, but it's always good to get the soil back in a healthy condition. So we started that process at our farms by planting cover crops and just basically incorporating them back into the soil as green manure, and getting the soil texture back to a healthy state, as well as getting the soil biome back into a healthy condition as well. But there's a lot of technical resources out there. The Northeast Organic Farming Association of New Jersey is an excellent resource. Jim and I both separately were on the board. Jim was one of the earliest board members and member farms of NOFA, and there's plenty of organic farmers out there that are more than willing to share their experiences with transitioning land to be certified organic.
Great, thank you, Sherry. Okay, I'm going to ask a question of Alina now, which is the mat used to plant seeds in vertical farms from recycled plastic bottles? You've answered that yes. And if so, does any of the plastic chemicals from the bottles get into the food?
No, BPA free.
It's completely. So it just doesn't get in there, period, or does it have to be removed?
So the original source of the fibers are made from recycled plastic water bottles, but through the manufacturing process, there isn't any detectable BPA in the product at all. So it's like a fleece-like material that we actually have a patent on.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Great. There's another organizational question here, which is there an organization that partners with county ag boards and/or Rutgers to promote younger people becoming involved in agriculture using CSAs, leasing farms that are already preserved or might otherwise be sold for development? So I guess they're really talking about, you know, the on-ramp to becoming a farmer. So, Sherry?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was working at the Farmland Preservation Program, I helped with the Secretary of Agriculture at the time, Art Brown. We put together a program called the New Jersey Farm Link Program, and now it's called the New Jersey Land Link Program. So if you Google that program, you will get the website. And what we were trying to do, a lot of people have heard about the lack of younger farmers to take over from older farmers. So what we were trying to do is partner the younger generation with retiring farmers. We had some success with that. It's really what we see in New Jersey. There's really more of a transition of farms that are for sale being sold, and then the landowners looking for younger farmers to farm that land. So the New Jersey Land Link program, it is a partnership between the Northeast Organic Farming Association and the State Agriculture Development Committee. So they do have a database of landowners as well as young or new farmers looking to partner. I know that NOFA runs a program calling Exploring the Small Farm Dream, and this year They are going to offer that, I believe, remotely. Also, NOFA has a winter conference that will be coming up in either January or February. Rutgers also was offering some programs, especially for women in agriculture. I don't know if they've transitioned to online coursework, but Rutgers Cooperative Extension would be the go-to place. But in terms of the county boards of agriculture, I'm not aware of any young farmer programs. I do believe that the New Jersey Farm Bureau has a program that would be worth looking into as well.
Great, thank you. The next question is the nutritional value of plants different in greens grown in the sun from greens grown under lights? I think that Alina has really answered that it is different, and they modify the environment for the seed differently. Alina, did I miss anything on that one?
I think it's, you hit the nail on the head. And I think what's most important just to remember is it's really hard to track at a mass scale all of the inputs of all of the farmers that produce food for us. So in the case of what Sherry does, she really manages her land impeccably and makes sure that her soil is of the highest quality, and chooses, and is an organic farmer. But not all farmers are able to do that. And so what we're doing is basically creating a consistent environment so that the seed produces, so that we can produce the highest quality leafy greens or the highest quality products all year round. And when it comes to the specific stressors, like I mentioned a little bit, we can actually use the LED lights and the different wavelengths of light to stress the plants differently. So the arugula that we have, for example, the growing algorithm for that arugula includes a lighting array that emphasizes its peppery qualities. And so that's a flavor note that's accentuated, but it also has resulted in a certain nutritional profile. Everything that we taste in a plant is a sort of a signal, a proxy for the nutritional density of that plant. So when you taste a lot of flavors, when you taste a lot of different types of notes, that's a bit of a proxy for nutrient density. So anyway, all that's to say that it occurs in nature for sure. But you might, for an outdoor farmer, for example, you might notice that one season when it was more humid, your basil tasted more sweet, and another season when the temperature was less humid, the basil was a little bit tougher, right? So that same seed, depending on the environment, the expression of that seed can be very, very different. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, we're a little bit past 7 o'clock. We have a couple more questions, Alina. I think people less familiar, of course, with AeroFarms because they haven't seen it before. So I'm going to sort of combine a couple of questions if you could just answer them. One is, what percentage of AeroFarms produce is benefiting Newark and is getting to other urban, underserved, healthy food and deprived people? The second one is the price of vegetables from AeroFarms comparable to farm-grown vegetables? And the third one is, what is the shelf life stability between organic farmed versus vertical farmed? So I'd like both of you to weigh in on that.
Sure. So our products right now are $3.99. So for the same container, we've priced our product the same as a package of organic baby greens. So we grow baby greens. We don't grow mature head lettuces. We grow baby greens and we grow microgreens. So we're more in the specialty category versus the mature greens category. And our products are on par with other organic products. And we've strategically made that decision because we really wanted the product to be as accessible as possible on shelf. In terms of what was the first question?
The next one was, you answered the price question. One of the other questions was the shelf life stability between organic versus a vertical farm, for both of you want to answer that. And then the other one was about who benefits in Newark in terms of urban and underserved?
So in terms of the benefiting, I spoke a little bit to jobs, but in terms of food distribution, we work with a lot of nonprofits like Table to Table and donate quite a bit of food to food banks on an ongoing basis as part of our commitment, but also we have a farm stand that's open to the community where we sell our product at a fraction of the cost. So we participate in as many community initiatives as possible. And in addition, we really see our role as being able to provide the communities that we go into and build farms in with ample job opportunities and consistent, high quality green jobs with good conditions, so that the overall economy and the overall impact is much wider than just being able to grow food and donate it. So we really think about the holistic 360 approach. And
that's part of the Corporation B.
The B Corp, exactly. And then in terms of shelf life, so right now the food, a lot of our shelf life expectations for food are a little bit skewed, because what we're used to eating are either when it comes to fresh fruits and vegetables is not exactly the way that our ancestors experienced fresh produce. So today, the average age of an apple that you might find at a supermarket is 6 to 12 months, because it's not picked at peak ripeness, it's kept in chambers to prevent it from ripening, et cetera, et cetera. Leafy greens today that are coming from California or have to travel long distances, they're specifically being grown and chosen, those varietals are being chosen for durability and portability. So they're not being chosen to taste good, and they're not being chosen to deliver high nutrient density, which is why when you go and you buy salad, it doesn't really taste like anything, which is why we have such a big dressing industry. Why do we need dressing for salad? If you go to Sherry's farm right now and you taste a leafy green, I guarantee you it's going to be nothing like what you would taste at
It's so good, just jumping in.
Yeah, it will have tons of flavor. It'll have incredible texture, and yeah, it won't be perfect. It might have some stuff on it. It's natural, right? So we have very skewed expectations of what food should look like, taste like, be like. Our shelf life is actually lower than shelf life from conventional large-scale leafy greens farms. We're not choosing leafy greens for transportability. We're choosing leafy greens for flavor and for nutrition exclusively. When it comes to shelf life, our shelf life is around 14 days. Typically, in order for leafy greens to survive that journey, they need to have a shelf life of like 16 to 24 days. So for us, our shelf life is great, but for us, we're delivering within 24 hours to the stores. So our business is in growing and rotating that product so that it's consumed as close to harvest as possible. I don't know if Sherry, if you wanted to jump in about shelf life.
Well, just from my perspective, because it's so hard for me to compare what Alina's product is, because I mean, the only similar product that we do is lettuce mix. We do arugula, but we do we're not doing like baby arugula. Our shelf life is shorter than Elena's with leafy greens. And part of it is, I would say, because it's soil based. So when our harvesters are out there, their knives have to be completely clean when they're cutting the lettuce mix. That will add to the freshness of the product, but if the knives are dirty, that's going to degrade the product a little bit earlier than it should be. And then for us, we are washing and spinning dry the produce, and then we're bagging it. And there's always some moisture in the bag. So we're pretty low tech. And so it's one of the reasons why we harvest the day of distribution or the day before, because our leafy greens are so highly perishable. And this also, you know, it touches a little bit on one of the reasons why CSA just nationally until the pandemic, it was a marketing system that was in decline. I think because in the past 5 years, there has been such a focus on food waste. And, you know, when you're getting arugula, let's say on Monday, and you're living a busy life and you don't get to it until Saturday and it looks kind of limpy, and instead of doing what I do, which is throw it in soup or stir fry, you throw it out, that makes you think twice about joining a CSA in the future. So we are upping our game in our washing and packing areas to extend shelf life to address the food waste issue.
Great, thank you. Okay, here's another one. What are the nutrient sources in hydroponics? Now, I presume that person really means aeroponics. Alina?
Yeah, well, you know, those nutrients are typically, are usually the same. So hydroponic farmers, they buy kind of like nutrient blends similar to outdoor field farmers, but the nutrient blends have to be soluble in water so that they can be absorbed by the root structure. For us, we actually create our own nutrient blends of the essential vitamins and minerals that plants need for photosynthesis and for growth. So we create our own nutrient blends, and these blends are from a variety of different sources, and they're typically they're like the essential minerals and elements of the earth.
Great. We have one more question, Alina, for you, which is, you mentioned AeroFarms is venturing into growing some crops other than leafy greens. What are they? And does grow time per crop limit what can be grown in a vertical farm efficiently?
So the answer is we are growing other crops. We are the next kind of crop on the horizon. There are vine crops, so anything that grows on a vine makes sense in a vertical farm. It has less to do with grow time and more to do with the economics of the product. So leafy greens are a high margin product because they are highly perishable. So there's a market for them. There's a value proposition there. It makes sense. Certain things like potatoes, wheat, there's actually a huge research study done recently on how effectively wheat could be grown in a vertical farm. From an efficiency standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. From an economic standpoint, it makes zero sense because nobody's going to pay a premium for wheat, right? Because it's a commodity. We grow it great outdoors. Why grow it indoors? I think from a science research perspective, it's super fascinating to be able to figure out how to grow lots and lots of different crops. Just kind of from like from an insurance standpoint, you know, just to make sure. But today, the way that our markets work, most things do not make sense in a vertical farm. Leafy greens make sense. Vine crops like tomatoes and strawberries, cucumbers might make sense. A mango tree doesn't make sense, you know. Can it be done? It can be done. Should it be done? Probably not. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you. And one last question about the pandemic. Has the pandemic affected your business since restaurants are a major part of your consumer product? I think that would be really for both of you. I think everyone seems to be branching out in terms of where they're selling it.
Yeah.
So you want to take this one, Alina, and then we'll let Sherry close out with that?
Yeah. So for us, most of our business is actually retail, so we were really lucky, but a pretty sizable amount of our business was food service as well. And that was one of our bigger kind of growth areas. And yeah, that business went to basically zero. But because most of our business was retail and because our growing cycles are 12 to 14 days, we're able to flex really quickly and to lose maybe 2 weeks of production versus, you know, a whole season's worth of production. Like reading the news and what field farmers had to go through, and euthanizing chickens and getting rid of thousands of pounds of potatoes and onions, that was just heartbreaking for me. And because all of that food was really set aside and grown for restaurant partners. And so that's where we can really be resilient and targeted, and shift our production pretty quickly. So for us, it definitely made an impact, but because most of our business is retail, it, you know, we could flex up and change things up pretty quickly.
Sherry, you want to weigh in on that one too?
Yeah, we never really developed a restaurant sales end of the business. When Jim first started what was then known as Watershed Organic Farm, he tried all kinds of marketing strategies, and really nothing was as lucrative as the CSA program. Where it did affect us is when I talked about our group box share sites, and I mentioned universities and churches, we also do a vibrant delivery business to workplaces. So we have a number of pharmaceutical companies. NRG on Route 1 is also a work site for us. So those office workers found themselves no longer going to the office. And so when we realized that, there was a lot of like, oh, what are we going to do? And we had started home delivery. So the vast majority of the office workers that we were no longer able to serve at their workplaces, we were able to do direct home delivery. So thankfully, we have all stayed healthy through the pandemic, including all of our workers. And so we have been in a position to be, being that CSA is a retail type of marketing system, that we have been in a position to be able to safely deliver our produce either by people coming to the farm markets or by getting box share deliveries. And we've had people early on in May when they first came to the farm letting us know that it was the first time they felt safe to go out and get their produce. And after visiting with us, they felt safe again to go back into the supermarket. So, so it's nice to be a trusted source of local produce during this time.
Great, thank you. One last question has popped up, and it's also for both of you. In terms of how safe are the bags or the plastic containers in which your products are packed? How do you feel about those?
Safe in terms of human consumption?
Yes, I mean, you know, they don't want the product to be contaminated.
Very safe.
That's a good answer.
Very safe, because the only thing with plastic where there's a concern is if the plastic is heated, right? So if you have a plastic bag or a plastic tray and it's somehow heated, then you can risk the plastic leaching. But if all of our product is in cold chain, so plastic in cold chain is stable, so there's nothing to be worried about.
Great. Sherry, any comments on that?
Well, we've been researching plastics in terms of packaging for years. I've reached out to Jen even to find out some of what ANJEC has been doing. It is a concern for our farm members. Of course, we're always going to use food grade plastic containers. But we've had some success with the plastic containers that we use for products like dried beans, where we've gotten a more sustainable type of packaging. We have, the whole industry has a problem with the plastic produce bags for a while, and we still do on occasion. We're using compostable bags, but compostable bags, it's a lot of greenwashing. They're not really compostable in home compost systems. So it's an area we're still working at, but working to address. But the industry really needs to, I think the plastics industry really needs to give us some viable alternatives that is not about greenwashing.
Right.
I think that's an excellent point. And anybody who is getting ANJEC's alerts or follow us on social media knows that as soon as somebody says plastics, I fumble out of bed run to the phone or go to the computer. There's a really important bill up this week. It would be we're calling it the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act. It would be the strongest plastic pollution reduction bill act in the country. And so we're very excited about it. The Senate has already passed it. It was passed by Assembly Appropriations and Assembly Budget, and it's up on the floor on Thursday. And it will ban single-use plastic bags with exemptions for produce and meat and fish, so sanitary reasons. It will ban single-use paper bags with exemptions for small businesses, farmers markets, etc. It'll ban the polystyrene food containers, so think about the Dunkin' Donuts cups or the clamshell containers, and it will make plastic straws upon request only. You can still buy them in your Target, your Walmart, your big box store, but the plastic straws will be upon request only. And so we're very excited about this bill. There has been, there was some pushback early in the pandemic from really largely the plastics industry and the oil and gas industry. For those who don't know, plastics and oil and gas are very tightly tied together. Single-use plastics are most frequently made from the waste product of fracking. So, climate change, fracking, single-use plastics, they're all very tied together, and we do need better alternatives, as Sherry said, and I'm sure Alina would support as well. And so we are seeing that shift nationally now, with California on board with these bans. Philadelphia and New York are ahead of us. So we will have over 30 million people regionally, with Philadelphia, New Jersey, and New York together, with similar laws and legislation that are combining with Maryland and New Hampshire and Maine and Vermont. So we've got a real purchasing power on the coast to drive the industry into alternatives. So I've got great hope that better packaging is coming. And, we'll be looking to our great partners, such as our organic farmers, our technologically advanced farmers, our local farmers, our small businesses, our restaurants, to help us figure out what the right solutions are to move forward with the next step. But I couldn't miss a beat to talk about plastics, because it's so big right now in New Jersey, and we're so very close to getting this extraordinary legislation passed. So sorry for my break-in infomercial at the end there.
Okay, we are done with the questions now.
Excellent. So I just want to thank everybody so much for being here tonight. Sherry is an old friend, and Alina hopefully is a new friend. And I look forward to being at both of your farms and your facilities when it's safe. And I want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight. And sharing the fall equinox with us. I see it's dark out already, so that's happening as well now. And hope everybody has a safe evening. And in November, Lyle, can you give us the date for the next session?
Sure, it is November 13th, Friday, November 13th at 6 p.m.
Friday the 13th. Fun.
Friday the 13th, we're gonna have a fun time, and we're sticking with the theme of Look What's Growing in New Jersey, and we'll be talking to a vineyard, Villa Milagro Vineyard. We're going to be talking with a brewery, which is Flying Fish Brewing Company, and also with Skunktown Distillery. And so they're going to be talking about how they have been able to grow their businesses. And also, as you heard tonight, they have extraordinary environmental processes that I think everyone will be interested in. So please join us then. It's on our website, so you can join us that way. And I'll turn it back to Jen, because she might want to mention something about our Congress.
Oh, thanks, Lyle. I appreciate that. So on November 13th, we should all BYO cocktails, since we've got a distillery and a brewery and a vineyard that we're speaking with. And yes, for everyone who's still with us, we have Environmental Congress all October long for you. As you may know, this is usually a one-day event where we bring together 250 to 300 of New Jersey's environmental leaders, advocates, volunteers, legislators, elected officials, But because we can't all safely be together indoors this year, we are holding a month-long environmental congress with sessions on Thursday evening and Friday afternoon. And since October brings us 5 weeks, we have 10 sessions to offer you next month in October. So if you go to anjec.org, you can find all the information about the schedule and how to register, and we hope to see you there. With that, I think that's it for the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.